Hello there, this is Mark Prilhart. I have been with Sumitomo a little over 2 years, and I am part of the Atlantic region. I cover southeastern Kentucky, upper East Tennessee, western North Carolina, and upstate South Carolina. The success story that I'd like to tell you about has to do with a customer in Greenville, Tennessee. It's a processor of fused zirconia that comes from sand and silica. The end product is used in a wide variety of applications, which includes ceramics, electronics, and catalytic converters, just to name a few. They have a total of 14 ball mills in that plant, and every one of them have Falk 2100 Y2 gear reducers. That's parallel shaft, 9-to-1 ratio. They are driven by 200 horsepower motors. And they've had problems for years in those applications. Insufficient service life and frequent failures. Long history. It is a tough application, okay? It is very dusty. Gets extremely hot in the summertime. There's a lot of vibration from those ball mills. And there's also a mill pinion that is mounted directly on the output shaft, and that drives the ring gear on the ball mill. So we know that there's a lot of overhung load there. And I was aware of this opportunity years before I started with Sumitomo. We knew in talking to these guys that they were getting these units rebuilt by local independent repair shops, and we also knew that the quality of work was very poor. And we had some strong suspicions that they weren't real careful on how they installed and maintained these units. They just weren't taking care of them. We spent a lot of effort trying to convince these guys to send those units to get them repaired correctly. And we even offered to have somebody come down and supervise the installations, help them out with alignment and things like that. They never would take us up on that. And that philosophy, I guess, they just decided that it wasn't worth the money. We couldn't convince them. Well, some time went by. What do you know? All of a sudden, they decided that something had to be done about this issue. So we got called back in to take a fresh look at it. And this time, I decided I was going to try a different strategy. And I asked them to quote a drive upgrade to a V-class. And they could get a big increase in service factor with very little change in actual housing size. I thought that would appeal to them. We had a discussion and ended up quoting them on several different options, different levels of service factor. Never could get them to make a decision, just like it was back before. Things kind of stalled, and that was about the time I started working for Sumitomo. I had not been working for my new company for very long at all when I got a call from one of the local independent distributors, and he told me that he was working on a drive upgrade project in Greenville and he needed my help. So wouldn't you know it, it was for the same ball mill drive application. Seems that he had been working with my predecessor, Jody Pendleton, and they were going to replace those Falk drives with Paramax. And now that Jody was gone, I was able to get back in on the same opportunity with a different company, working with a different distributor. I thought that was very interesting. So we ended up offering them a size PhD 9080 P2, 9-to-1, and dimensionally it was very close in size to the Falk unit. We included taconite seals and an anti-dust breather that addresses the dusty environment that I'd mentioned, and also a transition base, and this would allow them to match the Falk footprint and the low-speed shaft position, which was critical. We did some investigating and found out also that they had 2 different shaft arrangements in those applications. So we provided a flippable housing so that they could keep one spare for all 14 units. So as you may know, the flippable housing has mounting feet on top and bottom, and it will allow them to flip the unit over and get a different shaft arrangement. And we also got an increase in mechanical rating, a tremendous increase in mechanical rating from the Y unit to the Paramax. The service factor on the Y unit was 2.25. That wasn't bad. But with the Paramax, the service factor is 7.2. The service factor is so high, in fact, that we recommended preloading the bearings to prevent skidding on the rolling elements at startup. That's very common for high service factor applications. And we wanted to make sure we addressed that. We had one more option to offer on these units, and it turned out to be the most critical. We included heavy-duty low-speed bearings since we knew that they were using a mill pinion on that low-speed shaft. I'd mentioned that before. We got the OD and the width dimensions on the pinion, and we did some overhung load calculations just to see what that would do for us. And here's what we discovered. It was very eye-opening, okay? The calculated overhung load on that application, we figured out to be over 23,000 pounds. The Paramax rating with the heavy-duty bearings was rated at over 29,000 pounds, so we thought we had addressed that issue very well. But we also decided to run an overhung load calculation on the Falk ratings and came up with 14,000 pounds. It was severely underrated with regards to overhung load. So in retrospect, we realized that this may very well have been the primary cause of most of their problems. So in conclusion, after years of work with 2 different companies, we finally secured an order for 2 units, and that was in May of 2018. I got some recent feedback, and they told us that those drives are performing extremely well. They're running cool, they're running smooth, no noises. They're just very, very satisfied with those units. And so, this past February, they placed an order for number 3. So there's 11 more to go, and this will hopefully be some good business for us in the next several years. So that's it. Appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.